Hi, everyone. So it's been 2 years since I've arrived here in Australia, and really still can't believe how fast the time has passed. I still feel like I've arrived here yesterday with so much excitement and curiosity. Growing up in Bhutan, life is slow, and development has its own pace. And I've never imagined, not even in my wildest dream, I tell you, that I'll come and live in a country like Australia someday. This really makes me pause and think that anything is possible in life. So some of my early experiences of Australia still makes me smile. And these are the stories I love sharing with my friends. So one of the experience, I was at a gathering of over 150 people, and I was the only Bhutanese. I'll be honest, I was a bit nervous. I felt a bit out of place and was not sure if I really fit in. But something really interesting happened in that event. The event actually started with a smoke offering. And instantly when I saw this, I connected to it. Because this is something even we practice in Bhutan, to honor our nature, each other, and all sentient beings. And that was one moment I still remember now, that I felt so much at home, even though I was away from home. And I was really surprised how much curious people were to know about when I said I'm from Bhutan. You know, when I introduced myself, people's eyes lit up. And it was almost like I was a celebrity there, to be honest. And let me tell you, I've never received so much of attention my whole life, which I really enjoyed it. But also interestingly, at the same event, someone actually came and asked, Wesel, you're the first Bhutanese that I'm meeting, and I'm so glad to have met you. But tell me one thing, why would you come to Australia, living the most happiest country in the world? By the way, we never claim to be the most happiest country in the world. So to answer his question, I paused. I didn't prepare though, so I just told him, I'm here to really understand why so many of you want to come and visit my country. And he laughed, and he also nodded. At that moment, I didn't realize the depth of my answer. But later, when I reflected on it, I realized that there was so much truth hidden to it. Back home, I tell my friends, it is as if I'm time traveling. It is as if I'm glimpsing Bhutan in the next 20 to 30 years from now. Well, I admire Australia's progressive development, but I'll be honest, there are times when I miss my slow-paced life in Bhutan. When I talk about slow-paced and the fast-paced life here in Australia, this came to me through a very silly experience, which actually made me think really deeply. So when we arrived here, we would find people coming to us saying, hi, hello, how are you doing? How's your day been? And I would genuinely stand there and answer to all the questions, one by one. So I'll be like, oh, I'm doing good. So I had a very rough week because I'm still looking for a new home, and this is what I'm looking forward to. And I realized by the time I finished my answer, the person has moved on. Yeah, and some people would stay, but I could still see that they were so much in a hurry to move on to the next conversation. This really made me think deep. And that's when I also realized how fast-paced life here is. It's very direct, it's brief, and things move on. But what humbled me over the last 2 years were the questions that I've received from so many people here whenever I go to a meeting or to a conference. And you know, I would expect to get very difficult questions. I would prepare myself. But the questions that I received were very simple ones. Very heartfelt questions. Questions like, Wesel, how do you all live your daily life as a Bhutanese? And how do a day look like in your life? I would smile and respond by saying, just like any other, we would start our day with our work, our daily chores, and we begin almost every day with a short meditation and a prayer. And then we end our day with a gratitude and a dedication prayer. These questions really made me reflect deeply again. I realized that even though a country as developed as Australia, people still long for deeper answers to questions like how to live a meaningful life. And that's how I have also known that how naturally and unconsciously the concept of gross national happiness has been woven into our daily lives. The concept of gross national happiness was first founded by our fourth king in the 1970s. So the development philosophy talks about the balance of economic progress with the well-being of people and the environment. He also stated that gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. And this is just not a slogan for us. It is the very foundation of the nation's plans and programs which are based, and also our national priority. So when I talk about the gross national happiness concept, it is based on the 4 pillars and are being measured across using the 9 domains. The 4 pillars, as you can see, are sustainable and equitable socio-economic development, environment preservation, promotion and preservation of culture, and good governance. The first pillar, sustainable and equitable socio-economic development. In Bhutan, we believe that development must be guided by values. We do want to modernize. I get people coming to me and saying, "Do you guys have, motorbikes in Bhutan?" Because people always assume that we are people living on the mountains, meditating the whole time, and a bunch of monks doing meditation the whole time, But let me tell you, that's not the case. We do want to develop, we do want to progress and modernize, but not at the cost of our humanity and our connection to nature. In Bhutan, we also have free health and education for all citizens. And as rightly stated by His Majesty, the 5th King, gross national happiness has come to mean so many things to so many people, but to me, it signifies simply development with values. GNH is the bridge for kindness, equality, and humanity. The second pillar is the environment preservation. In Bhutan, we are connected very deeply with our environment. It starts from our childhood. Even me as a child, I still remember how my parents would always tell me how all the trees, all the plants, and all the flowers have life in it. And I wouldn't dare to harm them. And that's when I also realized how they're not separate from us, but they are a part of who we are. And if you ever come to Bhutan, which I think you all must one day, you'll feel it the moment you land there. The air is fresh, the river's clean, and the mountain stands majestically. This is the photo of the airport, so this is what you'll get to see. So this really shows how sacred nature is to us. And thirdly, the pillar of promotion and preservation of culture. We Bhutanese take pride in our culture. They're just not rituals for us, but they are our identity. Today I'm wearing this national dress. This is called Kira. And this is worn by all the women there. And when I wear this, it reminds me of where I come from and my roots. I can tell you this, that every Bhutanese who travels across the world carries a piece of this, because this is how we feel connected to our roots and to our culture. And the 4th pillar, the most important pillar, which also ties all other pillars together, is the good governance pillar. Good governance in Bhutan is about guiding the principles of integrity, accountability, and wise leadership. Good governance is also about creating conditions for all citizens to have a fulfilling and meaningful life in Bhutan. So now, does this mean that every Bhutanese can explain and define GNH in Bhutan? Well, there's a bit of a misconception. When people come to Bhutan, they would think that the moment they come there, they have a conversation with someone on the street, or maybe, talk to a taxi driver. They think that he or she will be able to explain what GNH is. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, that's quite not the case. I had this experience with my mom once. I asked her, "Mom, do you know what gross national happiness is?" She said, "I've heard about it, but I don't know the depth of it." And that was the moment when I explained to her the whole concept. And then I remember she smiled and said to me that, "Aren't those the values that we have been living throughout the generations? Aren't those the values that we have been practicing?" That moment really stayed with me, and I realized that even though not many Bhutanese can explain what GNH is, we live it every single day. Even our GNH survey, which happens every 4 to 5 years, once in every 4 to 5 years, a happiness survey which is conducted in Bhutan, even our survey reflects the balance. The questions being asked are not just about your income, your health, and your education, but you also have questions like, do you have your knowledge about the local folk tales? Do you know your local legends? In the last 1 month, how many times did you visit and say hi to your neighbors? When was the last time you donated your time for your community? And the results from these surveys actually guide the governments in planning policies and plans. For example, in 1 year, they showed there was a decline in the Diglam Namja, that is the Bhutanese Code of Conduct. And as a response to this, the government promoted more cultural programs in the schools and then also supported a lot of local Bhutanese films. So now, what does this mean to us here today, to ordinary people? Well, here's the truth. GNH is not just for policymakers or for the government. It is something that can be applied in your daily lives, in your schools, and even in your businesses. If you look closely to the 9 domains, you will see we have questions under time use and other domains. Especially under the time use, you see questions like, how many hours do you sleep? How many hours do you work? Do you have enough time for your community and family? So these are some of the simple questions that you can also bring in your own family. You can have a mini survey on your own, maybe in your community or maybe in your businesses. And then maybe you can see which of the domain needs the attention to improve. And this is how you will create conditions for them to have a meaningful and a fruitful life. So GNH, to me, is really about asking the right questions. So now that I have experienced both the worlds, the very calm, slow rhythm of Bhutan and the fast-paced life in Australia, I've realized, and I can say that in Bhutan we may have fewer choices, but we have enough time to reflect, to breathe, and to enjoy small moments. But yet in Australia, there are endless options and opportunities, but I still get the same heartfelt questions from people of how to live a meaningful life. And this is what GNH does to us. It invites us to ask questions differently, not about how much can we achieve it, but how well can we live it. So now, when someone asks me, "Wesel, why are you here in Australia?" I smile and tell them, I'm here to learn and to share. Because I've realized even in Australia, there is deep wisdom, especially in the indigenous tradition, which honors nature, each other, and all sentient beings. And I always would imagine what would happen if these two wisdoms came together. If we allowed GNH and the indigenous knowledge to meet, and to inspire a way of living that values well-being over wealth and connection over competition. And this is the invitation I leave you with today. Thank you.